Hey, I'm Ashish Mohapatra. I was in McKinsey last from 2006 to 2010 in India office, but largely worked out of the Delhi office. I largely worked in the pharma and medical product space while at McKinsey in India. My company of business actually is a marketplace for largely raw materials in India. It aggregates raw materials which are of a bulky nature, huge metals like steel, aluminum, copper, zinc, petrochemicals like bitumen, emulsions, industrial chemicals, a few select SKUs, food grains in agri and all that, and takes it from their sources, which are largely manufacturers of these raw materials, and distributes it to small and medium businesses.
Hi, this is Ruchi. I was last at McKinsey in 2015 and joined McKinsey in 2007 across the Delhi and Bombay office, primarily in the financial services practice. Continued my passion at financial services to what we do today. Oxiso, which is the financial services arm of business, essentially is into working capital solutions as well as other financial services in the small and medium enterprises and mid corporates in India.
In the markets that we serve, in the world that we work, in B2B marketplaces and B2B commerce, commerce and credit actually go hand in hand. So, literally, all our transactions, greater than 95% of our transactions, involve some amount of credit as well as some amount of commerce. Our customers are typically small and medium enterprises with annual turnovers ranging from US $1 million of $2 million to about roughly 20 to $25 million. So these are really small companies. But these small companies are B2B themselves, which means that they deliver a product or a service for a large anchor. They are the backbone of India's economy, but because they tend to be almost 40% of India's GDP. The problem that we are solving for small and medium businesses is that they get the raw end of the stick in the commerce value chain, which means that they buy these materials at a higher price than what they should if they were all being united, and they also buy it at exorbitant credit terms, and hence end up spending a lot of money on the supply chain that kind of serves them. What we do is we disintermediate the entire supply chain and take the raw materials right from the manufacturer and distribute it to the SMBs. I met her a couple of months after she joined in 2007. Uh, I think not only did we meet, we both liked each other, both personally and professionally. And at least for us, I think it can be one of two things. It can either be a force multiplier, or it can be extremely divisive. It's been the former with us. In classic McKinsey style, because of three reasons. We are great critics of each other, so we kind of find out how the other person can be better at. We are great learners from each other's styles because we are known as yin and yang in our friend circles in terms of both our professional and personal approaches to life. And the third is we get inspired by each other's deeds. So hence, what happens is that if she does something great, I also want to kind of achieve a similar benchmark to maintain the same amount of affection and respect. So put those three things together, you get a force multiplier.
Actually, quite awed by Ashish's answer on that one. But we are, the good thing is that when we are in a professional setup, we are quite professionally oriented. And I mean, you have a third person, they'll not be able to figure out that, okay, there is some kind of a personal connect. And I think being at McKinsey helped that. Those were like the foundation days. And when it is a personal environment, it is different, right? And you will see us in that setting, and that's something that we are able to wear those different hats. And I think that's what keeps us healthy. More importantly, when you work together, you have that respect and that trust, and hence, for me, the force multiplier comes with the fact that yes, you can go ahead and do your thing, and you know that there is a co-founder, a partner, a professional partner who would actually support you, and at the same time, you can trust for that support to be there. Right? It's not that you have to always kind of analyze yourself whether you're doing the right thing. So I think that actually helps both of us in terms of both the space being there as well as the support and trust being there. So all the key criteria that we had laid down were around the fact that how much operating expense do we have, how do we turn profitable quickly how do we actually make sure that both businesses on a standalone basis, whether it's the transaction, each transaction by transaction was profitable, or for that matter a financial services business was profitable from day one. So I think we'll attribute it more towards the ideology, and which led to the kind of principles that we laid down for ourselves in terms of building the enterprise itself, which actually led to the outcome of what you see in terms of profitability. And when you have that thought process, you try to make sure that everything around, whether it's the operations, whether it's the kind of people that you put in, whether it's the kind of technology that you're deploying, and the cost associated with it, it all leads to that one outcome, which is profitability.
Organizational DNA wanting to be profitable, as well as business segments wherein if you're not profitable, you probably won't exist, are some things that we started off with, and as Ruchi rightly pointed out, continue to this day. I think in these uncertain times, particularly the ones that are happening right now, like COVID, and there's a lot of credit squeezing, there's a lot of global economic slowdown, it is very important to first believe in yourself. It is to stick to your own knittings and not really chip and change too much around the core areas of functionality. It's also important to consolidate your business towards what you really provide as a value prop to your customers and not try to do many different things. We also believe that in these uncertain times, it is very, very critical to stick to your core team, which is not just your founders, but almost every single manager or employee who works in your company. Those are really the guardrails that we think are important to last these uncertain times.
I think if the fundamentals of the business right from the start are laid in the right fashion, then it helps to actually navigate any of the uncertain times. And if you actually build the business to last for the long term, it actually helps you, because if you look at the last 4 years in India itself, there have been waves of economic upswing as well as downturn. And within 4 years, we've actually seen the kind of vintage 10-year entity will see. And if you set the fundamentals right and the building blocks right, you can navigate through stressful times.
So McKinsey was a very important building block in my professional career to date. I think the first thing that I learned from McKinsey is how do great leaders and managers think about life ahead, both in business and in their own personal domains. The second thing is this word called impact, and McKinsey's obsession around it, almost transcending to almost every single guy at McKinsey. A word that has been very close to me in both my professional careers post McKinsey. I think just to aim for impact and to measure yourself by it at all times is something I learned at McKinsey. I think the third thing is the ability to network very efficiently as well as very deeply is something that I learned at McKinsey. Typically, people at McKinsey as well as the alma mater at McKinsey is a very close-knit, very deeply involved kind of an association, and I'm privileged to be a part of it.
I think for me, McKinsey is a great place to identify what your real strengths are, because every time you actually are put into a situation which is a little new or could have a very different context, and then you have to actually figure out what the analysis is, what's your hypothesis, what's the problem statement, how you go and discuss with the client, and then how do you present, what do you come up with an outcome, and all this during this entire stage, which actually happens very early in your career, you understand what your real strengths are, and then whatever you take up in life going forward, you can build off those strengths. And I think that has been integral in terms of the way I work currently, in terms of my management style. I think there's a lot that we've seen at McKinsey wherein freshers or management trainees, equivalent, or people who've just graduated from B school are actually put into very different type of situations, whether having the right experience which is matching that situation or not. And that's something that we actually apply at Off Business and Oxizo as well, wherein it's not just about your prior experience, but it's more about your intrinsics. And I think believing and backing those intrinsics is something that McKinsey has taught us and has actually worked very well in our current organization as well.